Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm very happy and thrilled to have all of you here again to discuss with us the second webinar, which is about creative problem solving with AI. We will discuss how it could be beyond the conventional with the Professor Christoph Schomer. So, dear participants, I would like to, we appreciate your dedication to the online course of Element of AI and your engagement to the webinar series. So I hope that you complete the second online chapter, which is AI problem solving, so that you could connect with the context of the webinar. Again, it is very important that you read first the online chapter, and your commitment to learning about the topic is truly valuable to complete your understanding about the basic concept of artificial intelligence. So this topic is about if you read the online chapter, I hope so. It's about AI classic algorithm that could be used for gaming, planning, and search problem. And you can imagine how it's practical to use this algorithm in a case of deterministic environment, which we know already the state, the transition, the action, but it's not the case when we move to real world application. And this is what you will learn in the next chapter. So let me introduce our speaker for today, Professor Christoph Schomer. He is an associate professor in artificial intelligence at the University of Luxembourg. Christoph Schomer is an internationally respected scientist with vast experience in both academia and industry. He teaches courses in all academic level at the University of Luxembourg, both in computer science and in mathematics data science. So he is increasingly in demand as a scientific expert both inside and outside the university in the course of AI development and achievement. His research interests lie particularly in the application of AI technology in humanistic context, for example, in art, in question of ethics, but also area of digital storytelling and distant reading, which is of particular interest to historians. In addition, he maintained many scientific relationships with researchers from other disciplines, such as linguistics, C2DH, LIST, Scientist Lab, and other institutes. So we are honored to have him to share with us his knowledge, insight, experience, and in particular his work. So please, during the presentation, if you have any question, as already explained by my colleague Thomas, please use the chat. So we disabled the Q&A session. This time you use only the chat. So please send your question to all the panelists so that we will moderate them, prepare them for the speaker when he finishes his presentation. So please feel free to put or post or write your question in the chat during the presentation. Our speaker will be talking about 45 minutes, followed by Q&A session, where we will give your question to the speaker to answer as many as possible to them. And we have also 15 optional minutes to answer more questions if the time of 1 hour cannot be enough to answer all of them. So we have 15 minutes additional for those who want to wait till more than this time. So we are recording the webinar for those who are unable to attend, or for those who want to rewatch the webinar. So the recording will be available in the website on the communication platform. Read it. I hope that you have all of you access to it. Which also I recommend you can post your question in Reddit platform, just choose the block related to the chapter that you want to ask for question. So I will give the stage to Professor Shomor. So please, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sana, for the nice and kind introduction. Yes, so the talk today is about creative problem solving with AI beyond the conventional. And when I got this title, I thought by myself, okay, what does it mean beyond conventional? And what does it mean beyond the conventional? So I tried to think about how can we differ it? And I mean, the easiest way to differ is with respect to the time and with respect to the current developments. So then I thought, okay, before or let's say the conventional as such is maybe, let's say, everything that has to do with AI before, let's say, this decade, and beyond the conventional, maybe the time, let's say, in the last years. So and this is also how I have created this slideshow and also the program of today. So I will start, let's say, a little bit and only a little bit with the traditional AI, with the strong AI, with the AI that is, let's say, supposed to imitate, to simulate human behavior. And then in the second, the larger part, then also, let's say, more the weak AI, the data-driven AI, let's say this kind of AI that takes advantage of newest achievements. Oops, now I have to go. So conventional AI, what I have, let's say, found in literature, conventional AI in the sense of posits that human intelligence can be replicated in a computer system, unlike weak AI, which aims to solve intelligent tasks without necessarily being considered intelligent. Conventional AI is dedicated to creating an AI system comparable to human intelligence. So, and in this manner, in this sense, let's say this slideshow is constructed. I have in the following some let's say, examples for this conventional AI, for this strong AI, and let's say, oops, no, I don't know. Okay, and let's say one of them is, for example, these, just to put it aside, so let's say this game playing as a very traditional, let's say, component of AI. And here, maybe you know tic-tac-toe, maybe you know chess. The idea is to do it very verificative, in a sense that a tree or a tree-like representation is made where each kind of statue is represented. No? So you see here, for example, the possible moves of, let's say, a player who clicks on the left upper area and marks this with an X. Then the second player marks the zeros or this circle somewhere, and so on. You see the tree, and the deeper we go in the tree, the more we come to the end of the game. The point here is that each of these levels here, each of these games piece is evaluated with a certain evaluation function, and both player 1 and both player 2 is taken into account. So assume I'm player 1, I cross the button here or I cross the box here, then this is somehow evaluated by an internal intelligence. And if someone else, the player number 2, crosses, let's say, the box somewhere in this already given box, then it's also an activation function that takes place. In all of these cases, let's say, an evaluation takes place, and the system tells me then what is the best move in the next round, which brings me, let's say, the highest gain, so to say. There are different kinds of functions which evaluate the current status of this game. So Alan Turing here for chess, suggestion on how to do, where the pieces, the number of pieces are taken into account, where, let's say, the places where the pieces are put are taken into account, and also let's say, other kinds of evaluation functions. Deep Blue had over 8,000 features in this evaluation function. So it's not really intelligence. It's just, let's say, a sequence of, yeah, how can I say, evaluation pieces that are used in this game. So, and with that, let's say at each step, the system is able to, yeah, to recommend the best move after. So let's say if, for example, this box here has been clicked in this way, then an evaluation function says or tells me, okay, the best move for you is maybe to go to this place or to this place, and to cross it here. So there is definitely a recommendation, but it's not witch work. It's just mathematics that's behind, and basically, let's say, a function, mathematical function that recommends the best move. Also, here in this game, a very simple one, also evolutionary computing, The Game of Life by Conway. This is, let's say, also simulation of intelligence. So in this case, a cell, or let's say a couple of cells are predefined, and then here are some kind of rules that take into account the natural example. So, for example, any live cell with fewer than 2 live neighbor cell dies, as if by underpopulation. Here we have the case of overpopulation. And then here, let's say the situation where a live cell with 2 or 3 live neighbors lives on the next generation. So it's just a simulation. And the point is that, for example, if we consider here this one here, for example, the point is that each of these cells, in this case we see 6, here are 6. So 5 times 6 cells, then per iteration. Each cell, let's say, is concerned. And for each cell, let's say, the next level is predicted or even computed, let's say like that. And for example, here in this case, this cell here, this little one, we see that this cell has 5 neighbors which are black. So let's say here then this is black, this is black, this is black, this is black, and this is black. So this cell here has 5 neighbors. And with more than 5 neighbors, let's say there is, let's say it dies. So the next round it won't be, let's say, activated. It still stay as it is. But for the others, maybe it changes. It depends really on the neighbors a cell has. And here in this example, for example, here, this is a composition of cell, and each, let's say, new picture is a situation of a next round, and it moves from the left to the right. Here is something which is more stable. It changes, let's say, but it comes back to the original situation. So, and again, so in each of these cases, let's say a cell lives from its neighbors, and each cell has 9 neighbors, and if 2 or 3 are active, then in the next round, the cell itself becomes also active. And this is also a simulation of the natural example. It's a simulation how humans or how human intelligence works. In this case, it's an example from the nature. But just to say, that's even, let's say, the conventional in this sense that AI, we try to simulate cognitive behavior or even common intelligence. Here is another example, let's say the 4 colors problem. In this case, let's say the question is, can we, in a planar graph situation like this one, how should we apply 4 colors such that, let's say, no, not the same color is neighbored. And humans, let's say, can do this. So maybe it's a try and error, try and see strategy, but humans can perform this. And also here, the idea is to simulate this in a certain way. And there exist different kinds of strategies on how to simulate human intelligence. And let's say it's then even, let's say, quite possible to do that. It can be explained by some kind of mathematical calculations, definitely. But this is also, let's say, an idea, also, let's say, something that stands for the simulation of human intelligence. Last example is natural language understanding. This is a work from 1985 from Wards and Pollack, and they tried to find out how do humans evaluate or even disambiguate ambiguous sentences. Now, for example, here the example sentence is the astronomer marries a star. So it's here the astronomer married a star. And what we see here is definitely an ambiguity, a word sense ambiguity for the term star. Because star, let's say, is something that can be a geometric object. It can be a movie star. It can be a body in the sky. Now, star, let's say, is ambiguous. And the underlying question here is, how do humans solve this ambiguity? Can we produce a system that can simulate this ambiguation? And in this approach, in this research work from 1985, let's say, the authors have said, okay, we take into account several levels. On the first side, the syntactic level, the question, let's say, how can we put together these sentences? Because the is an article or a determiner. Astronomer is a noun, married is a verb, a is a determiner again, star is a noun. So how is it possible to syntactically explain, let's say, the coherence of such a sentence? Is this, let's say, really a sentence? Is this an incomplete sentence? Does it match, let's say, in the end, the given requirements? That's first thing. The second is, let's say, the lexical side, in the sense that even for star, for example, it can have different meanings. Astronomer, okay, it belongs to astronomy. Mary is Mary. And the last, the context, let's say, is it maybe something to do with humans? Is it something to do with a certain field, and so on? The point here is that the simulation of cognitive intelligence goes hand in hand with these four different levels. Now, the syntax side, let's say, the lexical side, the context side, and the idea of these research work is that all of them together commonly help to disambiguate star. And as for the example we have seen before with the life, also here, this system here lives from several iterations. And all what you see here is, let's say, a neural cell. And neural cells can, let's say, either inhibit each other or they can stimulate each other. So it's, let's say, one of these two that takes place. And there's much more to say, but what you may keep in mind that in the early AI time, 1985, 1990, let's say, these cognitive science definitely part of the AI thinking and of the AI technology. And in this case, even to try not to simulate games or even evolutionary aspects, but in this case, concretely natural language. And to go for an answer, how can humans disambiguate word senses? There are other approaches to disambiguate, for example, syntactic ambiguity. For example, Susan sees Peter with the telescope. In this case, the prepositional phrase with the telescope could belong to Susan, it could belong to Peter. And the sentence, Susan sees Peter with the telescope, for example, is ambiguous. And also here, there are ideas on how to disambiguate. Nowadays, in the, let's say, current times, the picture of AI has dramatically changed. So it's no longer, let's say, or less the simulation in the forefront, but more, let's say, the data-driven approach to collect data, to use data of different kinds, to analyze it, and to fusion data, of course, with the idea to make analytics or to analyze it and also to predict something. And the meaning of AI has changed, and it's, let's say, the so-called weak AI definitely lives from the presence of data. It's not like that the more data, the better. That's definitely not the case, but the more good data we have, then this statement might come true. But data itself is, let's say, needs to be pre-processed all the time, and it needs to be made somehow clean. And then, let's say, we can go with the analytics. But I come to this maybe in a few moments. Here are 5 ideas defined by AAAI and CSTA. CSTA is the teacher organization, the teacher association in computer science in the United States. And AAAI is one of the leading associations, American AI associations. And they have, let's say, developed, let's say, a program for the new AI. And you see here basically 4 pillars or 4, let's say, branches. Interaction, well, let's say, as one main aspect. The question on how do humans and robots interact, which kind of systems, let's say, which kind of ideas can be applied here or which can be used here meaningfully, definitely. Then here, let's say, the ideas of the sensors and these, let's say, sensor-based perception. No? So perception here, in this area here, it's basically, let's say, the question on how can we represent knowledge? Let's say, how can we store it efficiently? How can we access it effectively? And here, let's say, the learning as such. How can we learn from masses of data based on data that is in a good situation, that is in a good shape? So this basically are 4 directions which have evolved over the time. The traditional AI was more or less, let's say, close to the senses of humans: hearing, speaking, listening, thinking, and so on. But this has been reduced now to these 4, let's say, pillars. And in the middle, you see definitely the societal impact, in the sense that, let's say, the AI as such should be used for the common good, for the societal good, and for nothing else. So in the sense that AI should be a support. It should be a support. It should be a help to make life somehow better or even life more meaningful, like this, to simplify tasks and so on. And this is, let's say, a global picture. I like the picture very much because it really stands for current technologies. What is, let's say, not in this picture is, of course, that AI systems should be explainable and even also to be understood and accepted by humans. So maybe this is, let's say, something which should appear here somewhere in the middle. This maybe is more the technology. This is maybe more, let's say, societal aspects. Yes, so just that's for now. And now, let's say, the core of the lecture. So 4 questions. How can AI be used for creative and unconventional problem solving, including examples for arts, music, and design? Then let's explore various domains where AI's innovative approaches are making significant impacts. Let's address the ethical and practical considerations of integrating AI in creative fields, including authorships, originality, and the impact on human creativity. Examples of AI's potential in creative problem solving. The following slides have some examples for these 4 questions. So I do not go question by question, but have slides that cover all of these points. So I would like to start, let's say, with the beyond the conventional. And beyond the conventional, I mean, there are some points that play a role here. First at all, the data situation. And if you study the literature, if you, let's say, observe, let's say, newest technologies, then the point is that the occurrence of data and the presence of data and the understanding that data can be from different fields, that they can be of different kind, plays definitely a significant role in the post AI, or let's say in the today's AI time. So in many cases, people collect the data, they ask people to give data, they produce new data artificially. The data is nowadays the fundament for all kinds of AI calculations. This is definitely one point. The second is the occurrence of deep learning system. And I should say here that deep learning is definitely not the same as artificial intelligence. It's maybe a subfield, but it's not, let's say, equal to it. AI is definitely a little bit more. It goes beyond the techniques. It includes also other points, ethical aspects, and so on. But deep learning, let's say, deep learning and machine learning, let's say these play a significant role. The difference between the two fields is that machine learning can also be symbolic nature, whereas deep learning system, let's say, fully simulate the neural system that exists in the human body or in body of animals. So what you see here, for example, in this slide here, is that these boxes here represent cells. These cells are like the cells in the human body. Cells, let's say, receive stimulation from the previous cell, and they give stimulation further to the next cells. And internally, there is something going on. There exist activation functions, there exist, let's say, an update mechanism. But each cell lives from those cells that appear beforehand, and also, let's say, from cells that comes thereafter. In this case here, it's a so-called recurrent, let's say, situation, because this cell here, for example, sends output to the next cells, but also to itself. Here, this one sends, let's say, stimulation to itself, to the next one, but also to the previous one. In this case, we have a so-called recurrent system in which not the flow of energy, the flow of stimulation goes from, let's say, left to right, but also from right to left. So it's a recurrency. And the connections, the cells itself follow the human archetype, follow the human example. This here is an example which is called Deep Dreams. Here is the link, you can watch it. This is an example where a recurrent system is used. And if you see this video, then it's like a zooming. You zoom into the scene, in the scenery, and it's more or less an infinite process. Let's say you go deeper and deeper in this scenario, but all in all, new pictures or new scenarios are created. You could run this forever. And every time, let's say, something new appears. And this goes hand in hand with these recurrent systems here. So the flow goes not only from left to the right, but also then back. And through this recurrent, let's say, architectures, always new scenarios can be created. And so it's like if you swim and then you swim further, and always, let's say, new scenes appear, and that's then, let's say, quasi simulated in this deep dreams. There are other systems, for example, autoencoder. Autoencoder is another kind of architecture. In this case, for example, here, let's say there is an input, let's say, layer, called X. And here's an output layer, which is also called X. And the point is that these two cells and these two cells are the same. And the point here is that on the one side, on the left side, that let's say something that comes in is more and more dense. It's more and more, let's say, put together, if I say it like that, which means that the X, through these internal calculations, becomes somehow a set. And this is, let's say, an encoding mechanism in the sense that the input is encoded to, let's say, a representation where the input features, the input signals are really dense. On the right side, it's just the opposite. In this case, the decoder, let's say, uses this kind of dense information and tries to learn to put it to X again. So whereas, let's say, this here is let's say, a strategy to use a certain input and to, let's say, move it to a very complex structure. The second mechanism just does the opposite, takes the very complex structure and tries to do as best such that, let's say, the X comes again. And this is also something where lots of iterations take place. And it's more or less a competition between encoder and decoder. The decoder, the decoder's mission is to say, okay, I would like to be as best as the encoder. And the encoder tries to, let's say, generate, let's say, situations that are more and more difficult to, for the decoder to process. So it's a competition between the two. And but the good thing is that the decoder learns over the time via several iterations on how the encoder is working, and which means that with this structure that appears here, we are then able to use it, for example, for style transfers or for the image production. I have here an example, so deep fakes, let's say Mona Lisa and Vermeer's girl with the earring. In this case, let's say autoencoder are used, and in the first run, this original picture is used and then somehow compressed, and in the second run, the decoder then takes this compressed picture and tries to, let's say, find the original picture as best as possible. And of course, there might be errors inside. Of course, some nuances might be not correct, but that's even, let's say, what then can happen here, that the original picture is then somehow modified and put into a new format. And with this, just to say, there are lots of different architectures. And if we talk about deep learning, then it means it stands for different kinds of architectures, as you can see here. Autoencoder definitely one possibility. Recurrent systems are another possibility. Also, generative adversarial networks are also. There are many, let's say, ways on how to organize a neural network. And the common thing here is that all of them have an input side, all of them have a middle side, and an end side, an output side. And in between, let's say, lots of things happen. The weights between the cells adapt. The value of each cells adapt. There's a very complex calculations inside. And it's very good. It functions or it works very well. And those people who use deep learning systems are really enthusiastic. But the point is that the knowledge is very much spread over the whole network. It can't be seen. It's not like this, that this is maybe a word or a symbol. It's not like this, that this maybe stands for a lexical category or a syntax. It's not, let's say, like that. And this is definitely a disadvantage. And the explainability of all of this is not given, more or less. So the neural system here receives an input. It produces something at the end, but the question, what exactly happens, is very difficult to understand. And this is then one of the major, let's say, disadvantage or even criticism of these deep learning systems, that they function very well, but it's not clear what exactly they do. And this kind of confidence or trust in the system is even problematic. It can work well, it can maybe produce also crazy outcomes, but the question of explainability gets lost somehow. And just to say, so beyond the conventional means also, to critically ask, let's say, is it really correct? And what happens in the background? In a moment, it's more like a black box, and something happens, and we measure, let's say, the success only by considering the input and the output, but question is what exactly is in, and this is often forgotten. Just to say also, of course, GPT-3, now GPT-4, OpenAI's technology chatbot system with the large language models is definitely also beyond the conventional. So, I mean, the original idea definitely is maybe not so new, but the use of deep learning systems, the use of maybe associative complexity is. Let's say ChatGPT, for example, is, let's say, currently in everyone's mouth. For me, the most important thing with ChatGPT is that now everyone can do it. And it offers a very easy and simple interface. And those people who use it do not need to have profound AI knowledge. They just can use it, write in some prompts, texts, whatever, and receive an answer. And this is definitely new. Normally, let's say, the conventional is more like that you need some AI knowledge. But here, with this large language model, it's somehow a black box, but no one really cares about it. But the input is, let's say, can be given by everyone, from a child to a senior, and simply write in text, in what language ever, and then receive an output. And the ChatGPT communication principally could last forever. I mean, there is no, let's say, 24 hours cut or so. It can, let's say, run and run and run, and let's say people can spend the whole day with communicating to the system. And that's one point. The other point, of course, is that it can be used for knowledge acquisition. It can be used for language learning. It can be used as a stimulation, and all of this makes it very successful. And the question, of course, is, let's say, how can this affect educational purposes? In my opinion, I'm very open for this, and I would advise, let's try it out. Let's try to use GPT for educational purposes in a meaningful way. It should not be a substitution, but it should be something that can be used in addition. For example, for the generation of exams, for example, in the generation of additional source of knowledge, maybe in the last 5 minutes of a course slot. So I believe in this, and I think it's a new technology, and we live with it, and we should consequently not say, let's keep it out. On the other side, of course, for the evaluation, definitely people must say whether or not they've used it. It should be something like a Hippocratic oath. I would say that if someone says he did not use it, but he used it, then of course there must be a penalty. My player is to be very transparent and to say, okay, language models like this one can be used, but it must be communicated. Here, let's say an example where AI or the beyond the conventional is still not working. The point here is we have here DeepL, and we have here a machine translation system. I show this always to my students, Astronoma Maurice Star, and then here the German, let's say, correspondence. The point here is this is exactly what we have seen before in one of these conventional AI example, and in this case, let's say DeepL, the system translates star wrongly. It's the geometric object in the sky and not the TV star. And it's a good example because these kind of systems live from masses of data. And if the data masses are wrong, or if, let's say, the data aspect is wrong, then of course the prediction is then also wrong. And in this case, I think that the sentence Astronoma Maurice Star, or even star in combination with Astronoma, might be much more dominant than even in combination with Mary. And maybe there's a statistics behind, maybe stats is used to predict the meaning of star. In this case, it's then definitely wrong. Maybe because there are very many combinations of Astronoma and star. Maybe this could be the reason, and there are only a few sentences, training samples where Mary and star appear together. So the point here is that although masses of data are used, and although stats is calculated, the outcome is even wrong, and it must not be a Stern, it must be a star or even TV star or like that. So in this case, this is an example where these kind of sentences are translated wrongly. The same for the second one, because man here is not a noun, it's a verb. Two men, but the system recognizes this as to be a noun, and very likely because of many training samples, man is understood as to be a noun and not as a verb. And this might be the reason that this system also says, okay, then in this case, it must be also a noun, the old man, a determiner, an adjective, and also here a noun, and the verb is then missing. That's basically what the system understands, but it's wrong because the assumption is wrong. Man is a noun and not a verb, is a verb and not a noun. Okay, change the topic a little bit. Medicine, a little bit here. I mean AI in the sense of how can we use it, and I cite here Eric Topol's 4 visions, and Eric Topol is from Scripps Research, and one of the let's say famous persons in the United States, if it matters AI and health. So he claims 4 goals in, let's say, the appearance of artificial intelligence. The first one is use AI for doctors' clinical paperwork. The background here is that, of course, the doctors should concentrate more on, let's say, the medical points and not on, let's say, writing long reports or like that. So it should be, doctors should be concentrate on what they have learned, and this is even, let's say, to make a diagnosis, to work on the patients. So in this case, the claim is, okay, use AI for these purposes, for the paperwork, such that the doctor can concentrate on the work he's for or she's for. Second, use machines to reduce errors. I mean, in the presence of masses of data, and in the presence of different kinds of sensors and different kinds of, let's say, support machines during surgeries, then let's say the machines or even AI can be used to, let's say, predict maybe errors, to predict the right path. And this is the second claim. The third is even harvesting data to improve outcomes. The fourth one is the idea to treat patients at home. and not in hospital. Of course, here also the aspect of costs takes into account. But if we would understand, let's say, behavior of patients, if we know right before whether or not patients can stay at home or not, then this is definitely beneficial. So different kinds of claims. Back to arts, artificial creativity, the role of artificial intelligence. So in this case here, you see one of the pioneers, AI and arts, Harald Cohen, who died some years ago. And his, let's say, claim or his wish or desire was that to produce artworks even after his own death. And he says, "I'm the first artist who would ever be able to have a posthumous exhibition of new works created entirely after my own death." That was already in 1973, so the conventional, basically. And this is, let's say, a picture which I have taken in New York at the Whitney Museum 4 or 5 weeks ago. There is a large exhibition of Harald Cohen and how he did it, and which kind of picture can be produced. And here, let's say, in this conventional way, and that's something we have also seen for the Game of Life, for example, or in a game. He typically, let's say, made a plan on how the machine should work. Let's say in each of these boxes stands for some kind of status, and the arrows here stand for some kind of, let's say, action. To go from here to there, or let's say to use this kind of arrow means to move the picture from this status into this status. So, and basically, that's a very simple way on how to work on image production. But it was 1973. I mean, nowadays, maybe people work with deep learning systems, then it might look different. But in 50 years ago, it was like that. And that was definitely one of the beginnings, just to say. And here's Aaron, his machine, his AI machine, which paints the picture. And also here, let's say, a picture that has been made. Let's say in fictitious ancestry of a family, the Bellamy family. So all pictures you see here is artificially created. Never of these persons have ever lived. But it's, let's say, artificially created. It's put in this order. And the last one here at Monte-Bellary, let's say this picture here, actually this one, was also artificially created and even sold at Christie's for $432,000 US dollars. The point here was that the one who bought it knew that this is fictitious. So it's not like this that people were surprised. So it was known, but nevertheless, someone or some other people were interested in buying it, and they were ready to pay even this price. And that's quite astonishing from an AI perspective, from an artificial creativity perspective, that an artificially created picture is recognized as a masterpiece and people are willing to pay this kind of price for it. So, and this is maybe the more astonishing thing here. It's not the price itself. It's more like this, that this artificially creative or this artificial creativity aspect is commonly accepted and acknowledged, and people are willing to do it. And for me, it's definitely a signal if arts, if this is, if someone likes it, then someone is also willing to pay for it. And I mean, Pierre Fautrel, obvious. I mean, this is this community of artists who use AI for the production of the artifacts. He says, even though, let's say, the deep learning system GANs have been created, the painting artificially, it is up to us humans to decide to compute it or to print it on canvas. And I have the same opinion. It's, let's say, the system is there. We can use this kind of neural network technology, and it's then, let's say, something we offer. And if someone is willing to buy it, then it's fine. If not, it's also fine. I mean, it's a painting that we create. And again, these AI systems should not substitute a person or an artist. It should be something that, in addition, comes into play. This one and the next slide are two examples from Bill T. Jones from the New York University of Arts. And in this case, let's say it's about the optimization of movements. And the AI component here is, let's say, the production of these skeletons. Yeah, so the skeletons here, I mean, this is just a snapshot, but the skeletons, let's say, simulate the best movement to a certain dance or to a certain musical piece. And it's very much used for the education of new students, in general, or even of new artists. So in the sense that the skeletons have been created by learning the movements, and let's say the fundament are maybe dances by experts, by prima ballerina, or even by let's say by experts. And based on that, let's say the movements of the skeleton has been learned, and then the learned skeletons can then be used for, let's say, optimization of movements. And we see it also here in the class. So that, let's say, step by step, the movements can be plotted on the screen, and the students can then see, let's say, how can I optimize my own movement? And just to say that maybe a screen is in the room and a screen with the skeleton, then it's then can be done in parallel. This is Alex Mintzev, and let's say what he did as an experiment for AI technology. He created a system that can create sonnets, and in fact he collected data from the Twitter and collected this kind of data, put it together in a big data center. And then, let's say, he used AI technology to create poems or even sonnets. And one of the sonnets is here, to get an alligator for a pet. In this case, let's say you see that all of these sentences here coming from a Twitter message, and all of these sentences are in a certain style. They have a certain rhythm, and they fit also with the ending. Yet, alphabet, woo, to, repeat, tweet, string, anything. So, and the rhythm is in all of these cases the same. There are pentameters, 5, let's say, intonations. I don't remember starting anything. So 5 times, let's say, part of the word is, let's say, spoken out loud, and this goes through all of these lines. And how exactly he did, I must say, I do not know, but yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. You have 1 or 2 minutes to conclude.
Okay, then I go quick for
Few minutes, yes.
Yeah. Same for let's say Terry Nzalin, and so he also uses AI technology to produce her songs. But also here, it's not like this that she produces it and then it's it. She produces some songs and then she selects by herself, let's say, and says, okay, some of them are interesting, some are not. Then she modifies, and so it's basically that the creation of a song is a fundament, and then she as an artist, or Holly Herndon as an artist, both of them, let's say, modify the songs correspondingly. Storytelling, the same. Also, what I want to say is also here for this AIVA. AIVA is, let's say, Luxembourgish company. They make compositions of music pieces. What you see here is a composition of a music piece And what they did basically they have these kinds of patterns, and each, let's say, of these, let's say, flow of signals is a music piece. So, and based on that, on this flow of signals, they learn, or the system, underlying system learns on how to produce a new song. And there's a video where this exactly, or where he, let's say, a little bit explains, Pierre Barrault, where he explains a little bit how this is made. But the fundament is even these sequences of music. And each of these lines here represents a music piece. So in this case, we have 3 music pieces, and these are taken into account, and the system learns. To be fast, maybe some words about ESH 2022, ESH AZ, the cultural capital city of Europe in 2022. And there we had a big project, our AI and Art Pavilion, where we implemented different systems. One system is here, for example, a style transfer. So the picture of the university is taken and combined with Van Gogh style. In this case, we had a wooden box where visitors could communicate with the QT robot, and the QT robot took a picture of the visitor, combined it with a certain style, and produced a new photography, for example, the Matisse style or Van Gogh style. Then here, simulation of Prima Ballerina from the London Ballet. In this case, also we developed these kind of skeletons, and the skeletons, let's say, display the best movements for a certain piece. In this case, Swan Lake from Peter Tchaikovsky. And this can then also be used for educational purposes. Some others, here, this is an example. This is an avatar, and it's a game that takes place, and the user has the possibility to instruct this person and to tell him what to do. The whole scenario plays in 1867 in Luxembourg, and also the whole, let's say, picture here, all the buildings, the clothes, everything is from 1867. This project was done together with people from the humanities, so it's really, let's say, real in this case. This is an example, a chat bot, or let's say chat system, where this was the pre-ChatGPT times, where, let's say, someone could choose, for example, a certain religion. Robot 2 could choose another religion, and then they talk together. They talk, let's say, about religious aspects, and so on. So last slide, basically, let's say, all is fine. No? So the beyond the conventional looks very promising. Lots of things can be done, but there are still some questions that must be raised and also discussed. Ethical concerns, on morality, of course. Then, of course, what happens, for example, if let's say, a situation appears where something is no longer working, or maybe where someone comes to damage, then who, let's say, what about the insurance? What are the consequences of a wrong prediction? What is the consequence, for example, of a deep learning-based medical expenser who gives the wrong pills at the wrong time? Who pays for that? Explainability also. It's fine if something works good, but we also want to know, is it really correct? And how does it work? Acceptance, definitely the case. Especially elder people might have a problem with the new developments with AI in general. Maybe the next generation sees this differently. But in a moment, it's like this, that of course people, not all people are really in favor of artificial intelligence, and so on. So some other aspects that must be taken into account. So AI is not only technology, but a little bit more. Final slide, my group, that's me, and then some of my group members. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you very much, Christoph, for the nice and interesting presentation. Yeah, I see two questions in the chat. Please, for the participants, feel free to write your question in the chat. So the first question, I don't know if you, Christoph, can see the question, or do you prefer that I read the first one?
The chat?
So the first one, yeah, we have basically three questions. The first one, what is the purpose of the recurrent neural network?
Oh,
I can read it, Christoph.
try to.
Yeah, the first one is, what is the purpose of the recurrent neural network?
Wait, I try to find my cursor. It's a technical problem. The okay, can you tell me the first question then? I cannot.
Yeah. What is the purpose of the recurrent neural network?
My proposal.
The purpose, the goal, so the
The
end.
goal. Yeah, the goal. I mean, what happens? Let us think. What happens? A neural network has a certain produces a certain image. It produces, let's say, a certain image, and the recurrence system basically, if let's say the output is given back to the own system, then I mean, my understanding is that the next scenery can be computed based on the old one. So let's say, I mean, these kind of randomness or this kind of, I mean, if I'm, let's say, a human and I produce, or let's say I dream, I have a certain picture in my mind, and then I recompute it or I redo it, then the output might be different to the previous one. It might have some nuances inside which was not there before. So, and for me, recurrent system in the sense that it's like a loop, and each time, let's say, something changes, and in this case, the deep dream fits is a good example. I mean, in this case, a new situation, a new picture is generated, which is a little bit different to the previous one, and in this case, I would see it.
Yeah, it's always weighted for sequence prediction problem. If we want to keep in memory the previous input in order to improve the future one. This is the real purpose of it. I can give an example of when we type in the keyword in Google, just writing the first word and it recommends the sequence of the next one. It's something like this.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Christoph. Someone is asking which software did you use to make your PowerPoint?
Can you repeat?
Which software did you use to make your PowerPoint?
And for software purposes, I have to ask my doctoral students. Just to say, I can't answer this. So that's, let's say, I'm a little bit far away from this. Just to say, I cannot recommend it. Then I have to ask, let's say, other people which software is best or so. I mean, in my courses, and if let's say I have events with the outside or with the citizens, with the society, then let's say I explain, let's say, how things are working. But I don't think that it's, let's say, the task of a professor to teach a certain software. I mean, it's more the task of a professor to teach, let's say, common techniques and to make or translate complex technical things into a wording that everyone can understand. And this is something I do since 20 years. I'm not in favor of software products, just to say. I think that's the wrong way. I think it's better to have to understand, let's say, the general procedure and to have an abstract understanding of how things work. But I'm not in favor of software products.
Okay. There is a noise in my voice. I don't know why. Because someone in the chat confirmed that. I thought that only the one who can hear my voice 2 times.
Yes, there is
I don't know.
some echo in your voice. Sana.
Yes, there is an echo. Yes.
But it should be fine if you can't see where the reason lies.
I don't know how to fix this issue, but I think it's okay. No, it's repeated again. Okay, sorry for that. I don't know how to fix this issue, but let me go to the next question. I think, Thomas, if you can read it, it's better that I read it. Yeah.
So the next question is, it's actually 2 parts. It's a question and a thesis. And it's education related. Do you believe that would be a good way? People who don't know how to write in English, should they just go for it, asking ChatGPT to do it for them? Afterwards, what would be the point? What have they learned? And the thesis of this participant is AI would be useful for people who actually have life experience and have grown in all senses on all aspects of life. Otherwise, AI could create a lazy generation of people who don't even know how to conduct their lives. Might get into class in the end, but yeah.
I mean, with ChatGPT, it's like this. If you start it, let's say you have the console and you put in, let's say, your prompt, the sentences. I mean, this is something that everyone can do. So that's let's say not a big deal. The point, of course, is that let's say the answer that is, let's say, given might be wrong, of course. So which means that the question of interpretation the results, or even to check the results, is definitely a task that someone must do. And to simply believe that artificially created content is correct is definitely not right. So, which means that per se, these AI systems can be used by everyone. But if we understand, and that's correct, if we understand, let's say, a critical reflection of the outcome as part of the use of the system, then of course it's maybe not for everyone. That's clear. But to enter a sentence, to let's say to give a prompt and to read the result, I mean that's clear. But of course it could be misleading. It could be the result could be provocative. It could be wrong. That's clear. And in this sense, I think it's very much needed to enlighten society and to enlighten people and to say, hey, you cannot use as given, please reflect, please double check with other sources and think by yourself whether this can be correct. Okay, that's true. So if this is part of the AI, then everyone has also self-responsibility, of course, yes.
Exactly. This is the echo. Oh, sorry.
There's another question here. Is the film Inception a good example of an hour and a dream in a dream?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Sana.
Sana, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, we can still hear you. Okay. Maybe in the meantime, let's continue with that question. Do you believe that the film Inception is a good example of an RNN or a dream in a dream, if you know the movie?
Recurrent networks for the deep dreams, is this the concern?
Yes.
I mean, just let's say what is published in the literature about Google Creative Labs, and let's say the starting, and I mean the dreams, let's say, is the result of an experiment and an unwanted experiment. It has been a side effect. It has not been targeted directly. It has come out as to be something where everyone was wondering. I mean, again, in my understanding or in my imagination, I mean, if we see this as a simulation of how humans work and how humans behave, I mean, then if it's a feed forwarding of a stimulation of an input, this goes through and produces some kind of result, maybe a picture. So, and if I then give the picture back to the system as an input, and the system then creates then a new picture, because the first created picture is different from the original picture. So, and I see this, I see the R and ANS, the recurrent networks, definitely as a valuable approach for this. And yeah, so maybe because of errors, because the errors are in, and maybe because the errors might then be responsible for slightly adapted pictures. And the more I do, the more the original pictures changes. So that's how I can understand this, how I see it. I mean, maybe it's not the goal to produce the original one in a perfect way. Maybe it's the way to allow some noise inside, with the aim of having a continuous flow of pictures. And this is then the deep dream. So, and
Okay, thank you, Christoph. Yeah. Thomas, I don't see the question in the chat because I reconnect. So
We have another
I
question.
lost. Yes. So
Can you
maybe
explain
this
in
is
what
the
way?
last one. Yeah, the last one, and please, dear participants, write your question in the Reddit platform, and we will be happy to answer all of them.
Yes.
Sorry for that.
There's one last question. Can you explain in what way transformers of ChatGPT are different from classical neural networks?
So ChatGPT and neural networks, and the question is?
Can you explain in what way transformers, in the context of ChatGPT, I guess that person meant.
ChatGPT, I mean,
classical
yeah,
neural networks.
I do not know how exactly it works. Maybe no one knows how exactly it works. I did something years ago, in the sense that I thought, okay, what happens if people talk to each other? I thought about the question 10, 12 years ago. And then I thought, okay, eventually it's like this, and it was just a guess that people try to associate incoming words. For example, if I say, I like the forest, and then my conversational partner says, oh yes, forests are nice, the trees are green, and there are meadows. In this case, I associate tree, forest, green, I associate this together. I create an internal structure where these three words, these three symbols or terms are connected. So, and with the simple thing, if the more sentences are given, the more two people converse, the more, let's say, the conversation takes place, then maybe more complex this generated associative network will be. And maybe the connections between terms, between words, become stronger or weaker. So, and that was an idea, again, 10 years ago. I mean, it can be implemented. At that time, the problem was, okay, it's too complex. And maybe we cannot solve it, but nowadays with the new computing systems, I think it's possible. And maybe the ChatGPT works in a similar way, that it's maybe not only statistics that the next word is predicted or so, maybe it's also that, let's say, an associative networks in background, and that maybe a certain neighborhood around the word is taken into account. But I do not know. Maybe it's like that, maybe not. I think, yeah, just to say.
Yeah, I can add something by looking to the architecture of both architecture. So the classical neural networks CNN, they process the data in straightforward, which mean layer by layer. So each layer directly feeds into the next and so on. But the transformer, on the other hand, have a more complex setup that allow them to look at different point details of the input data simultaneously, which give a power to the transformer compared to the classical one. So this is my comparison in terms of architecture. So thank you, Christoph, for the time, for the presentation, for the answer. Thank you, dear participant, for your attending. And please, next year webinar is about the third one. Explainability is a very hot topic that you should attend as well at the same time, at the same day. Please read the online chapter before you attend the webinar. By the way, I remember that one participant asked me about the certificate and the 2 ECTS. So all the participants will have their certificates by passing the test and attending as much as they can the webinar. So for PhD students who are from the University of Luxembourg, they have 2 ECTS. But for other students from other university, they have only the certificates. But the good news is that they can give this certificate to the university to validate them as a 2 ECTS, because our university cannot allocate ECTS to external students, only to students from the University of Luxembourg. So that's it about the certificate and ECTS. So please be active in posting your question in the platform of communication, read it, and we will try as much as we can to answer all of them. So your question about the webinar or the online chapter, all of them are welcome. So we will be investigating time to answer all of them. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you for your participation, and also from us, thank you for your participation.